Welcome everybody to our CustomerX Impact Expert Exchange. Glad to have you here for this session. My name is Jeff Ernst. I am the CEO and founder of SlapFive and also the founder of the CustomerX community. And we're thrilled to have you here today because we're going to be talking about a very important subject both to customer marketing people as well as to analyst relations people. And just to give you a little background about why we wanted to have discussed today's topic is that a lot of you that I've been talking to who are doing customer marketing work and running customer advocacy programs have told me that your leadership teams are just, maybe I'll use the word obsessed with making sure that you're getting as many 5-star reviews as you can. And you've got magic quadrant evaluations coming up and things like that. And there's just this pressure I know that a lot of us are under to really influence the influencers, meaning the analysts, to make sure we're being positioned in the best way, that we're in the upper right quadrants of the magic quadrants or the Forrester wave, to make sure we're mentioned in analyst inquiries and things like that. So I felt like it was a good time to reach out to Robin Schaffer, who I've known for years, who's an expert on analyst relations and knows a lot about this subject. I am also a former and recovering Forrester analyst, so I have some perspectives on this. I've done a few Forrester waves. And so we're going to dive into that topic and really talk about how analyst relations and customer marketing can work together to really crush it when it comes to positioning your company the best way with analysts. So with that, let me introduce Robin. Robin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I currently run Schaffer AR agency. So I do analyst relations for other companies, for vendors. And I do have a slide that I can go through with a little bit of my background and the overview of who I am. So I can just go on to that if you'd like.
Well, and maybe as you're doing that, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what caused you to be interested in the first place in this whole analyst relations space?
Oh,
I always want to know, like, the why. What lured you in the first place?
That's such a good question, because I think, if you ask 10 people how they got into analyst relations, you'll get 11 answers, because there's no way that people do that. What happened to me is I had spent, let me go to the slide, start going over that, because I had been in B2B tech marketing since college. So I was working for tech vendors in B2B space, doing pretty much everything you can do in the marketing world. And in fact, I did have a stint at AT&T back in the day. God, what year was that? I don't know, in the 90s sometime, doing customer marketing. And one of the things I was doing then, because AT&T had IVRs, those menu things on the phone, we actually built a testimonial, and it was so hard to get anything out. Like, we had paper testimonials. So we built an IVR so somebody could go in with their customer and say, it's this industry, this product, this, whatever the criterion were, and could listen to a description of a customer testimonial. So that was like way back in the day. And that was so unique because there was nothing like that on the market. But because that's what AT&T did, it was a good way to showcase and also, show the customer. So I had been doing strategic marketing, everything from strategic to tactical things in marketing for many, many years. And at one point I worked for Unit 4 and I did both AR and customer marketing. So I was asking myself for references. So that was really interesting. But anyway, to answer your question, I had been doing all this work in B2B marketing. And then at one point I was doing product marketing and wasn't really happy in that particular role at that particular place. They knew it. And they asked me if I would start up an AR program. They didn't have one. They were a pretty big company. They didn't have anything, proactive. They weren't doing anything proactive for AR. So I said yes. And then I said, and what does AR stand for? Because I knew nothing about it. So I jumped in with both feet. And I won't say I knew nothing about it. I obviously knew the basics of it. But once I got involved, I really, really saw the opportunity, and I saw how all of my experience from the strategic to the tactical came into play. And I really felt like from that moment, I kind of found my home, and I fell into AR, and I started to specialize on it. And through that, I did thousands of interactions with Gartner, Forrester, IDC, and many other firms so I've been doing that for 15 years, just doing AR. And I wrote a book, Analysts on Analyst Relations, which is available on Amazon. And I am involved in a research project with ongoing research program with the University of Edinburgh, who has the only analyst observatory or analyst focus in their business school, I think in the world, that focuses on researching the analyst market and the way it impacts businesses. And we have been doing a special research program on the state of startups and industry analysts, understanding that ecosystem, how that ecosystem works. So that gives you a quick overview of who I am.
So you know a thing or two about how analysts work, think, what they need, and why, right? And also just a quick background for me on the analyst side. So I worked at Forrester from I think 2010 to 2016. And so I was an analyst serving the CMO role, B2B CMOs, and which caused me to be the guy, or one of the two people actually, covering the marketing automation and marketing technology space. So I did hundreds of briefings with marketing technology vendors, covered like innovative emerging technologies as well as the big marketing automation space. But I could tell you as an analyst, as it relates to the topic of this call, I was always so frustrated that none of the vendors could provide me with customers that I would want to interview. Because here's what happens. They came into the briefings, they made these bold claims about differentiation that they have in the market, bold claims about the ROI that their customers were getting. And then I would say, oh, well, that would be awesome. Let me talk to somebody that's getting that. Or they would name drop customers. I would say, oh, can you set up a call? I'd love to talk to that person. And they could never deliver. And it was always so frustrating as an analyst because I wanted to hear from them what they were doing. I wanted to know more than just the vendor's perspective. And so I know we're going to be talking about that as we go through here. How do you fill that gap?
Yes, exactly.
Why don't you jump in and, I'll share a few insights as well as you go through the topics that you have teed up here.
Yeah, your insight, Jeff, will be super, super helpful with that background. I do have a cold. I have a cough. I apologize. I'm trying everything I can to minimize that, but just want to let you know that. So just real quick, what do your analyst relations partners do? What are they about? I just want to really, really simplify it because we all have different views of what that job is. But basically, they have engagements with the analysts, briefings, inquiries, meetings, different things. And they are trying to manage perceptions and relationships and take an analyst from maybe negative, to neutral, to positive, to being an advocate. That is what AR is trying to do. And when they get that advocacy, they start to get coverage. The analysts write about them in different publications. They get placements. So you're all familiar with the Gartner the Gartner Magic Quadrant, the Forrester Wave, these big reports. And they get placed well, once they have advocates. They get mentions to buyers. So a buyer is looking for some kind of technology or some kind of strategy or some kind of approach, and an analyst can recommend. They don't like to say recommend, but they can mention, have you ever heard of this company, or you should consider this company, which is super powerful. And they also get insights, which you're not going to talk really much about on this call, but they get inbound recommendations, feedback, and insights that they can use to improve their business. So essentially, AR is about that journey, taking an analyst on that journey to become an advocate so you can get all the good things to happen. Right.
And what's so interesting is you can take the same diagram and make it the customer advocacy journey, right? Because the customer advocacy professionals are trying to do the same thing. Hopefully, We're not dealing with the negative people, but at least the people that are neutral and positive. We're helping engage them in a way that moves them up into advocate stage, and then engage those people in different ways where maybe it's a different set of outcomes in that upper right circle, but it's a similar relationship building world, right? That we all are participating in.
Totally. Great point. So the power of the customer voice. So what I want to say is that we have all these formal ways, and Jeff, you hit the nail on the head. We're, telling the customer about ourselves, about how great we are. But the thing that is most influential to these influencers that take them along that journey is the customer voice. And you guys as customer marketing are so important to the AR person, because you have the keys to the kingdom and you have the ability to identify customers that can help you on that journey to advocacy. So you've got advocates helping you to advocacy with the analysts. And the analysts really want to understand from the customer perspective. So they'll hear from the vendor, their vision, products, and so forth. They want to hear from the customers why they chose you. They really want to know the customer's view on that. What value did they receive? Seriously, what value, and how did it change their business? What impact? How was the service and the experience working with that company? So they are very, very eager, because that's going to tell them more about you than you can say yourself. So that's why the customer voice is so important. So they can then recommend you or mention you, which they like to say, to other buyers and position you as leaders. And that's what the AR people are trying to get to happen. So what are the sources of the customer voice for these analysts? So the one thing is buyer inquiry. So this is where buyers inquire with an analyst about anything from their general business strategies to their technology decisions, to vendors, to down to making selections on vendors. So buyers are inquiring with analysts, specifically Forrester and Gartner, and many of the tier 2 and boutique analysts also provide that advisory service. Not all analysts do, but the ones that have buyer inquiry, they get the undiluted, the straight view from the buyers that call them and talk to them about these analysts. And it's very interesting, because one program that I've done in the past with my customer marketing people is, how do we get our advocate customers to actually do inquiry about us with analysts, kind of set that up and encourage it. Now, they have to be clients of the analyst firm, so that, we can't set that up that way or pay for it. But if they're clients of the analyst firm, we want more calls about us coming into the analysts, because especially if we're a small vendor, it doesn't take many calls to make a trend. And it doesn't take many positive calls to make a positive trend. So to the degree that we can drive buyers, our customers, to do inquiries to analysts about us, talking about and saying good things about us, but maybe asking for some strategies in this space, it can really impact the perception of the analysts about us. They do references as part of an evaluation report. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. They do a wave or a magic quadrant, and they want, a certain amount of customers. And I'll talk in a minute about what they're looking for. Peer review sites like TrustRadius, I'll talk about that in a minute, but they get the input from those peer reviews, and that's used both formally and informally in an analyst research. I'll mention that a little bit more in a minute. Calls and meetings at other times of the year. That's like what Jeff mentioned, that analysts are always interested in talking to customers, particularly innovative customers doing things differently. They're not necessarily that interested in the run-of-the-mill customer, but that more unique and innovative customer, they're always eager to talk to. So, at your customer advisory boards, if you do that, at your user events, you can set up conversations between analysts and customers. There are analyst summits. That's where you might collect all the analysts that cover your space and do your own branded event. and bring them together, and great to have customers there and one-on-one meetings and have the customer voice in those summits. And then, of course, the regular testimonial collateral that you do is very interesting to analysts and something that your AR people will want to share. So those are all the ways they're giving that customer voice to the analyst.
Yeah, and if I could just add, Robin, so a little bit on the, like, again, from the analyst perspective, the why, we wanted all this information is, if you think about it, when we do these buyer inquiry calls as an analyst, the buyer is really looking for almost like an insurance policy, right? They want to hear somebody, a third-party objective person, an expert, guide them in the right direction and help them steer if they're evaluating 3 or 4 or 5. And I can tell you from my experience, most of the buyer inquiries I got, they weren't just coming in blind, right? They were coming in with 3, 4, or 5 vendors that they were considering, maybe sometimes down to 2 that they had shortlisted. But then they started asking questions and sharing what they liked about this one or what they didn't like about this one, and they're bouncing that off of us. And so those inquiry calls are tremendously important. And to your point, if you can, as a customer marketing, customer advocacy person, help your analyst relations person generate more inquiries from your customers into those key analysts, that's going to impact how the analyst views you as your momentum in the market. Because the more mentions we get, then we're looking at it like the I guess the concentric circle, right? You got the big ones that are mentioned the most. We're looking at those as the ones that have the most momentum, and then you get the ones that are mentioned less often. Okay, those are the also rans, and then you get the one-offs, that might get a one mention a year, and so that's just really important.
Yeah, and you want to be top of mind. I mean, in that journey to advocacy, you want to establish and maintain mind share. And nothing does that. Your regular cadence of briefings and inquiries and touches and, does that. But when they hear about you from buyers, bingo, it really cements, and strengthens their perception of you. I agree.
And if I could just add one more, a couple actually very specific things that I want to see as an analyst. Number one is if you set up a briefing and your product expert or strategy expert came in and mentioned a couple of key differentiators that you have. And let me say for this, everybody claimed the same differentiation points. Like every marketing automation vendor came in and claimed this. They all claimed they were the most easy to use. They all claimed that, that they could build the most sophisticated lead nurture streams, things like that. And so they all sound alike. And so when the vendors all sound alike to an analyst, that's when you get your customers in there, because nobody can copy what your customers say. And so that's another reason. So if you're going to claim differentiation, make sure you have customers that can support that differentiation. Or if you're going to be announcing, like you're doing briefings to announce major product launches or major new capabilities like your new AI feature, make sure you have customers that can back that up, because we want to learn how effective is it? How are they doing it? And not just the ROI they're getting from it, but what it took for them to achieve that ROI.
Right. What kind of effort they had to put in. And that really is exactly what I was saying on this slide. What makes a great reference for the analyst? And it's not any different than, the vendor perspective. They, of course, you want happy customers. I mean, maybe not an analyst is specifically looking for that, but you want to put forth happy customers, of course. But it's very important that these customers be aligned with your vision, because your vision is very often way ahead of where your customers are. So your customers are on an older version. They are maybe not even up to speed on your vision. Very, very critical that you put forth the customers that can reinforce the more visionary claims that are aligned with that vision and can talk about how important it is to them that you have that vision and they feel comfortable that you can take them, where they need to go. Using your latest capabilities, like Jeff said, if you've got AI capabilities, they want to see that. They want to see, again, not the run-of-the-mill last version, but the newest capabilities. And then you need to understand the specific capabilities being evaluated. So if you have a pretty robust product line, what exactly is this analyst evaluating or want to know more information about? And you need to find customers, of course, that meet that criterion. Anything else on that, Jeff?
No, that's great. I mean, again, using those capabilities and just like when you're using your customer advocates or engaging them in ways that support what your salespeople are saying in the market or what your marketing messengers are saying. I mean, you always need to be doing that with customer voice. It's the same thing with the analysts, right? So there's so many analogies here. I mean, there's so many similarities that you just want to make sure that you have got customers. If you're going to be making any claims of superiority, differentiation, new capability, this is going to blow away the market. You know, we've heard it all. We're not going to believe you unless you have some customers that are going to back it up.
And it doesn't even have to be a customer that's necessary. What I found, obviously you want a customer if they're using it.
Mm-hmm.
But if a customer is just aligned with it, understands it, sees the value, can talk about the value, because sometimes you're really short finding customers that are on those latest capabilities. Sometimes it's very difficult. But it's important that if I talk to an analyst about these capabilities or these differentiations, at least I have a customer that can acknowledge how important that is to them. And that's the vision and that's the direction they're going. So that's important because, like I said, it's often very, very difficult to find those customers.
And the level of people at the customer site is important too, because
yes.
If you're coming in making a bold claim of ease of use, which is what all the marketing automation vendors did circa 2008, 10, 15, right? Then I'm going to want to talk to some end users that are going to vouch for that ease of use. But if you're coming in more talking about how we drive the strategic growth of your company, I want to talk to some people at your customer site that are the economic buyer, the decision maker who is driving the overall strategy and usage of your platform, but maybe isn't the hands-on user or power user. So keep that in mind as well. That has to align with your vision, like Robin said here.
Yeah, and that's so important for your analyst relations person to be clear with you on. What do they need from the customer references? And
right.
What have they talked about, and what do they need people to talk to reinforce?
Right.
Okay, I'm going to talk for a minute about peer review sites. This is simply, like TrustRadius, G2, Gartner Peer Insights. And TrustRadius did a report you may have seen where they identified the most, with buyers, the most commonly consulted resources for B2B tech buyers. And happily enough for them, user reviews were number 2. And these are just a few of the top things that they consulted. So user reviews are really important to impacting the buyers, the potential future buyers. And I think you guys all know that. But what I want to talk about is what value do those peer review sites have for the analysts, right? Mm-hmm. So these provide the analysts with the customer perspective. If they want to get a broad view, they want to get more than 1 or 2 conversations. They really want to understand the things companies, customers really like about you, like about the competitors, hate about you, hate about the competitors. And that might be for evaluation reports, or they're just general research about the market. It may not be specifically about an evaluation report. They will consult peer review sites to get that input. Now, Gartner, I think people know Gartner has Gartner Peer Insights. The official word from Gartner, the formal guidance, is that they will consult peer insights. And it's up to the individual analyst how they do that. So what happened is during the pandemic, it was like no customer references. We're only going to consult Gartner Peer Insights, and some people did it better than others. Some analysts did that better than others. They provided teams that would do some analysis of the peer insight to find the information that the analysts needed out of that, do the mining of that information. Now it's very non-transparent, very confusing, and it's up to the AR person and the relationship with the analyst to try to understand what they have to do. What are they going to evaluate for your customer perspective and try to get good understanding of that. So they might ask for references and look at peer reviews, but you have to know, because if the Gartner peer reviews are going to be a significant part of an evaluation, you need to work on that months ahead of the report evaluation. There's other things like Omdia, another big firm, has a relationship with TrustRadius. And I don't know how active that is. I had heard about that, a few years ago, and the analysts are telling me it's there. It may not be as strong as we thought it was, in terms of them actually depending on TrustRadius for that input, but there is a relationship there. And any analyst, the reviews are open and they're public. So any analyst from any of the 1,200 analyst firms or the 1,199 that aren't Gartner in the market can go, and they want to get a customer view, they can go to G2 or TrustRadius or Gartner Peer Insights. It's open to the public, and search around and see scores and see specific reviews. So it is, it is there, and it does impact them. And your AR person should be sharing these good reviews with analysts on a regular basis. So the peer insight management is a shared responsibility between customer marketing and AR in most organizations. It varies. Sometimes there is no customer marketing organization, and it falls upon AR to do that. Sometimes it's another part of the organization, but it is usually shared where AR is helping. There's tremendous internal pressure, as Jeff said, and everybody's looking for those 5-star ratings. And then
I just wanted to add to that real quickly, that because there's so much pressure on the 5-star rating, and maybe you have a perspective on this as well. I hear so much from people that their CEO is saying, we only want 5-star reviews, only reach out to people that are going to give us a 5-star review, ignore the rest, because if our current average score is 4.372, right, a 4 rating is going to bring us down. And so we only want the 5. And I could tell you that I have a lot of friends at Gartner who have validated this as well. In my own use, did a lot of used TrustRadius quite a bit when I was at Forrester, is that if somebody's average score is 5.0, we're going to assume that you've gamed the system because nobody is ever going to get all 5s. And so if you're between 4 and 5, you are fine.
Yeah.
Because the closer you are to 5, the more we're going to just assume that you're paying people $300, $500 or whatever to go write a 5-star review, or you're sending your employees to do it. So I just want to use that when you go back. Make sure if your CEO is putting pressure on you, only 5-star reviews, make sure they understand what we've been talking about here and how they're really used, because it will take some of the pressure off of you.
That's a great point. So I can just close with, you guys, there's the same ultimate goal between customer marketing and AR. We want to get more customers. We want to grow our revenue, and we want to use customers and analysts to get there, and we want to use them together to get there. So we have a very common goal. There are natural sources of friction. We've all seen that. We've all felt that. If AR is not, the more sensitive AR is to the realities of what customer marketing has to go through, and protective of these references, right? These references are gold, and you have to be very judicious in using them with analysts. And AR needs to understand and be on board with you, so you can together create a strategy to work on that. So I just want to get to this. Yeah. So an AR has to be as proactive as possible, not wait to the last minute. They have to understand that advanced planning, and the more information they give to you, the better. And customer marketing needs to understand it's not just another ask. There's something different about an AR ask. an analyst ask, because it gives value to the customer to be able to have a conversation with an analyst, because they're likely to get some feedback and information that's going to help them. It's not just doing you a favor. So there has to be position with the customer as a positive thing. Because you're so special, we want to give you this opportunity, because you're not going to give it to everybody. You're only going to give it to the most special customers. It's a real honor. And a good way to do it is a strategy meeting. Come together, AR, customer marketing, customer success, SMs, managers, other product marketing people, to look at the challenges of getting analysts these reviews and getting reviews on Pure Insights, and work together on how to solve the challenge. And customer success customer marketing should take the ownership of that. You own the customers. You should be in the center of that and drive that, and then communicate to everybody, about the reality of working with these customers. And finally, just be people. I mean, relationships are just about being people together and understanding what makes everybody tick.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. And then please, anybody, put your questions on LinkedIn there if you have some. I see Cindy here made a comment about that as a challenge with Gartner, asking customers to submit reviews on Pure Insights. But I think the analysts still want to connect directly with customers, which is absolutely true, because, again, oftentimes the reviews are not that robust. I hate it when there's like a 1 or 2 word answer. Like, what do you like most about the vendor? Ease of use. What do you hate the most? Integration. And so, just getting customers to write reviews for the sake of it, where they're giving 1 word answers, that's not helping the analysts. And let me also make a point to, and when you're engaging your customers, it's all on how you position it to your customers, right? If you're offering them, instead of saying, hey, will you do us a big favor? Will you do a phone call with this analyst because there's a magic quadrant coming up? Please, 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 we're desperate. That's not what you want to do. There's a tremendous value for your customer to do that interview with the analyst. They're going to learn a lot from that analyst. They're going to have the opportunity to ask questions. So when I interviewed my vendors' clients, I let them say, hey, anything you want to ask me? I mean, so it turned out to be an inquiry. A lot of times these people may not have been clients, or they may not be people that had seats in order to do inquiry, but I made sure that they got value out of it as well. And so make sure you're positioning as to your customers.
Actually, Jeff,
doing their program.
Just quick to that point, it's not just the magic quadrants and the evaluation reports. A lot of times an analyst will be writing general research about the market and use customer examples as the pinnacle. This company has done a great job in this space, in marketing automation, or whatever the topic is that you do. And that is publicity. That is great for the customer.
And also think about this too. My research director at Forrester would edit my reports and flag all the areas where I did not give an example of a company doing my recommendation. Every recommendation I had, which was in our what it means section of our report structure, had to have a customer example. That was the hardest part for me to add. Like, I was great at coming up with my recommendations, but finding a customer that was actually doing it, that was really the tough part. But it's also going to be accolades for your customer champion to be referenced by name. And so at such and such a company is doing this. They may or may not mention using you, but I had no qualms about mentioning the vendor that they were using. Like, this one was using Marketo to do this one. This one was using Eloqua to do this. And so again, it's position it as an opportunity, and then also don't just wait until the ask comes from the analyst. You have to be maintaining a bench. Think of it this way. You have to have a bench of customers where they've opted in and said, yeah, I do like talking to analysts, and you've captured that, so that you're keeping and engaging them and nurturing them throughout the year, so that when the opportunities do come up to talk to the analysts, you know who they are. It's part of the profile you're maintaining for that customer who's part of your program. And now you can tap into them based on what their expertise is, what products they're using, what features they're using, and what role they are in the organization. Any other questions that people have Anything else you want to ask Robin?
I wanted to say about Cindy's point, it's really the AR manager's job to find out. I mean, you have to dig into the analyst relationship. You have to have the relationships. Well, the analysts will be honest with you. It's not always possible. You have to try to get from the analysts exactly how they're going to get the customer voice for this evaluation. Are they using Peer Insights? Are they asking, ahead of time? Because the problem is, if they're going to use Peer Insights, you have to start a campaign to get fresh reviews months before the evaluation comes out. So the AR person has to understand how it will be used in the evaluations.
Right. And then speaking for other opportunities, there's also things that are happened in the industry that you also want to be making sure that you're briefing the analysts and providing customers to talk to the analysts. I'll give you a good example in my space going on right now, in the customer marketing and advocacy software space. The Influitive was acquired by ESW, a PE firm, and pretty much being taken out of the market. And so now, immediately, a whole bunch of Influitive users started going to the Forrester, Amy Bills and other analysts at Forrester, and asking about what should they do. And so, I reached out to Amy as soon as I heard the news, and I've been in touch with her and informing her what we're hearing from my customers. So that's just part of doing good analyst relations. But as more and more of their customers are migrating to SlapFive, I'm having them talk to Amy about why they chose to migrate from Influitive to SlapFive. So it's think about timely industry events that are happening where you also want to make sure that you're included in the dialogue. And especially if you know that industry event is going to cause a whole bunch of people to be doing inquiries with certain analysts, you want to make sure that you're going to be mentioned as it relates to a path forward for those types of industry
events.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. Great. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation. I hope you have, Jeff, and I hope everybody out there has.
Yes, definitely. And so I don't see any more questions here, but you can see how you can reach Robin. It's going across the ticker on the bottom there and also on the screen. If you want to reach out to me, I'm Jeff@slapfive.com. Also love to talk about analyst relations and influencing the influencer and coming at it from so many different perspectives.
Absolutely. Fun topic.
All right. Well, with that,
everybody.
Yes. Thank you, Robin, for joining us, sharing your expertise. I'm glad we got this scheduled. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Have a great day.
Take care.